Part 39. Pu Qiutai guessed the purpose of the emperor sending him to the cold palace. Mother, the emperor is gone. Farong quietly came to Pu Qiutai's side, put a cup of hot tea on the table, and saw that he was still iron green, so she couldn't help but persuade, "Actually, it's nothing." After only saying one sentence, he heard the master say bluntly, "You don't have to say anything. I understand everything, but I don't want to hear it. Since mother understands everything, why do you want to make this appearance?" Honglian has always been a fast talker, and when she saw that Farong was choked by Pu Qiutai and couldn't speak, she took over the conversation and stepped forward and said, "Why did mother enter the palace before? Isn't it to protect the two siblings? But the lives of the sisters and brothers are not so much in your hands as in the hands of the emperor. The fire from the heart cultivation palace yesterday has been spread by everyone. The emperor didn't come over last night. I heard that he didn't put on his face for a day. Mother, that's the emperor, the 95. No matter how you are favored, you can't stand you like this. You don't care about showing your face, right? The result? By tonight, the emperor will come to accompany the little talk first. If you really understand, you should take this step down. But you are still so stubborn, you don't even want to see the emperor. This is out. How can the emperor save face? How do you want to behave in the palace? You have always said that you forbear and forbear. For the sake of those two children, you have endured everything. Why can't you see it like this now? I just can't see it. I've endured it so hard. He's still forcing me like this. I don't know how far he's going to force me. If I endure it any longer, I'm probably going to die. Even so, no matter what, he can do whatever he likes. I have done my best. How Shanyan and Mingfang are, it only depends on their lives. I think that His Royal Highness Crown Prince knows about this, and he will not force me to raise and educate him again." Pu Qiutai stood up suddenly, threw down these words with a blue face, and turned around and entered the study. Here Farong pulled the Honglian and said, "Ancestor, the mother is so angry that he loses his mind, and you also add to the chaos? Listen to what you just said. If this is heard by someone who cares, isn't it another mistake? That's it, the mother is angry, and let's talk about it after a while." Honglian stomped her feet, gritted her teeth and said, "Sister nose and thin mud. Didn't you see what the emperor's face was when he left? To tell the truth, the emperor has always been moody. I have never seen him so angry. If not, am I stupid? Sure to say these things in a girl's head? Am I not in a hurry?" Farong frowned, and suddenly said softly, "This matter is a little strange. How can the emperor think of letting the Pu family enter Beijing with his family? What's more, the mother had only written a letter to his family before, and he didn't let the Pu family enter Beijing. Why did the Pu family enter Beijing by order, and no one brought it over? Instead of sitting here in the sorrowful city, you should go to Beiji to inquire. I always feel that this thing is weird." As soon as she said this, Honglian also came to her senses, and after thinking about it, she hated it and said, "Speaking of which, this harem is really the first place in the world that is not worth staying in. If you want to be safe here, you can't grow 3 heads and 6 arms, all of them have endless hearts. Look at these masters and girls to be smart." One sentence made Farong laugh, but she pinched Honglian again, and whispered, "Okay, you have a lot of strange words. Since you know that the harem is such a place, why don't you hurry up and find out the news?" After taking the Honglian away, Farong looked at the inner study, shook her head and sighed, and tiptoed out. At that time, Zhu Shanyan and Zhu Mingfang were both in the study here, although one sat reading and the other embroidered, but they didn't move their arms and eyes for a long time. When they saw Pu Qiutai coming in, the sisters and brothers jumped up for a while, walked a few steps forward and said with concern, "Uncle Pu." Are you okay? Uncle is fine. Pu Qiutai touched the hair of the two children. Did it scare you? Don't be afraid, it'll be fine. Zhu Shanyan and Zhu Mingfang bit their lips tightly. For a long time, Zhu Shanyan said softly, even if there is something, we are with our uncle, we are not afraid, even if it is death. Before he finished speaking, he was covered by Pu Qiutai, and he said softly, it's okay, Shanyan, don't think about it. Go do your homework obediently, uncle should be quiet. Zhu Shanyan nodded obediently, and went out with Zhu Mingfang, where Pu Qiutai sat on the luohan bed placed by the window, stretched out his hand and stroked his forehead. And then slowly closed his eyes. What exactly does Xia Linxuan want to do? If he wants to kill himself, there are reasons and methods. Why use such a soft knife? It has been a day and a night. And Pu Qiutai certainly knows that the matter of the Pu family's entry into Beijing cannot be changed. His sanity, which had been burned by the rage, gradually returned, and after thinking about it, he realized the hidden strangeness in this matter. Why is his family letter in Xia Linxuan's hands? Even if he kept sending people to keep an eye on him and intercepted the family letters, why didn't he have a seizure in the first place? But did he have to let himself know the news after the Pu family entered Beijing? Is it to test your heart? Don't talk nonsense. Shouldn't he have known what he wanted about him? That bastard is the most cunning of all, and he doesn't even have this self-knowledge. In fact, he had swallowed so much blood and tears, and even abandoned the bottom line of entering the palace as a concubine. Pu Qiutai knew very well that if Xia Linxuan slowly revealed the news about this matter and let him be mentally prepared, this matter would not have come to this point. It is just like what the other party said. Since you want to use your family to coerce, do you still care if that family is in the capital or Zhongnan? It's all the land of the daimyo dynasty, isn't it needing with him? Because of this, Pu Qiutai was very puzzled with his understanding of Xia Linxuan. It must be this cunning bastard who is brewing some plans and conspiracy, and this plan and conspiracy are not aimed at himself. The reason is very simple. Because you don't need to be so troublesome if you want to target yourself. But what's ridiculous is that such a simple truth seems to hide everyone, and even Farong and Honglian, who have served by their side for a long time, are really anxious and distressed at this time. Sighing softly, waving away the speculation about Xia Linxuan's purpose in his mind, Pu Qiutai thought of the family who was close at this time, and couldn't help but lose his mind a little. My parents and brothers have come to the capital, what should I do? Are you going to see them yourself? But now that he has such an identity, how can he have the face to meet his family? Pu Qiutai didn't even dare to think about what to say in front of his parents. I'm afraid that at this time, in the mouths of the world, he has already become synonymous with ruthlessness, righteousness, incorruptibility, and shame, right? He endured humiliation and lived secretly, and became Xia Linxuan's male concubine. Such a self, he just hated to let his family think that he was dead. How could he go to see his relatives? But it's all in the capital, and everyone knows about it, and if he doesn't see it, he's a little unwilling. After all, for more than a year, he really wants to jump into his parents' arms and cry bitterly. He misses his family too much. How could you be? Don't you know if you can bend and stretch? Suddenly an angry voice came from outside the house, interrupting Pu Qiutai's meditation. Standing up and not waiting to walk out, I saw two children rushing in from outside. One of them was like a little tiger with teeth and claws. Who else would there be if it wasn't Xia Dongming? His Royal Highness Crown Prince. Second Prince. Pu Qiutai greeted the two children calmly. Zhu Shanyan and Zhu Mingfang had also come in, looking at the pair of princes vigilantly, as if they were afraid that they would not be good for Pu Qiutai. What the hell do you think? You've all entered the palace, and you're still working against my father. Don't you want to die? Xia Dongming saw Pu Qiutai, and finally reined in his previous angry appearance, and reprimanded angrily. Even if you don't want your life. You don't want the lives of those two little cubs? Why did you get into the palace? Have you forgotten? Pu Qiutai was a little surprised at first by this brainless accusation. But he understood it in an instant, looked at Xia Dongqing's face, but saw that he was indifferent and expressionless, which further reflected Xia Dongming's gaffe. Although he has always had a headache for this little prince, at this moment, Pu Qiutai's heart is involuntarily warm. This child is not hopelessly bad after all. Although he is usually arrogant and gives people a headache, but at the critical moment, what you pay can be exchanged for a little care from him. Thinking of this, Pu Qiutai's mind was temporarily detached from the entanglement, raised his eyebrows, and said lightly, His Royal Highness Crown Prince is concerned about my life and death? Who cares about you anymore? Do you think you're too stupid to? It's hopelessly stupid, that's why I can't help but be angry. How could my mother be such a stupid fellow? As if to emphasize that his words came from the bottom of his heart, Xia Dongming couldn't help but wave his small fist as he spoke. I'm really sorry to let His Highness worry about me. But you say I'm stupid, I don't admit it. To be honest, I think I'm very smart. Maybe this time the Emperor will be angry and throw me into the cold palace, and then I'll be free. No matter what Xia Linxuan wants to do, all he can do now is cooperate, as Xia Dongming said. Why did he enter the palace? He had never forgotten this purpose, so he had to cooperate with that cunning bastard. Cold palace? Xia Dongming gasped, and his pupils couldn't help shrinking. And then he frowned, and said, Not really, right? As long as you coax my father, he will definitely not be angry. It is better to live than die if you go to the cold palace. Speaking of this, the little prince suddenly reacted to what Pu Qiutai had just said, and couldn't help but yell. You still say that you are not stupid, do you think the cold palace is a good place? It's hell on earth. Just a while ago, a concubine died in vain. What the hell do you think? Could it be? This is the purpose of Xia Linxuan? Going to the cold palace was just a guess by Pu Qiutai, but after listening to Xia Dongming's words at this time, his heart couldn't help jumping, and a thought seemed to flash vaguely in his mind, but he couldn't grasp it. If you really go to the cold palace, no matter what the purpose of that bastard is, you can clean it for a few days, right? Pu Qiutai, who thought like this, couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Seeing him look relieved, Xia Dongming couldn't help but stomp his feet fiercely, gritted his teeth and said, You idiot, wait. If my father really sends you into the cold palace, when your repentant intestines are blue, don't come to beg me. After he finished speaking, he rushed out again like a gust of wind, just as he had come, and almost brought down the Liulu and Honglian that were about to enter the house. Luliu glanced at the door thoughtfully, and suddenly smiled. Although His Royal Highness Crown Prince is still young, he is very clear about good intentions and evil thoughts. What do you mean? Honglian heard her mutter, and couldn't help but ask, but saw Luliu shaking her head and laughing. It's nothing. It's just a little sigh. Let's go into the house quickly. Mother let the prince make such a fuss. I'm afraid that the anger will be even greater. Just drink some white fungus lily lotus seed soup and defeat the fire. After Xia Dongming rushed out here, Xia Dongqing followed him unhurriedly, until he came out of the gate of Yunhai Palace and saw his brother sulking next to the swing frame under a plane tree. He stepped forward and smiled. Didn't my brother dislike concubine when the most before? It is said that it is almost the same as fire and water. Why do you care about him so much now? Who says I care about him? I'm just angry because he's so stupid. Xia Dongming snorted coldly, stretched out his little hand and punched the big tree trunk, and the back of his delicate hand suddenly broke 2 pieces of skin. But he didn't realize it. My brother still lied to me. The 2 of us brothers have eaten and played together since childhood. I don't know you yet? If it's not caring, how can you be so out of shape? Xia Dongqing is only 4 years old, and his voice is still a little milky, but his demeanor and words are like a little adult. I don't care about him either. Xia Dongming sat on the swing frame irritably, wrinkled his brows and said, anyway. I felt that compared to those concubines who hid knives in their smiles, he's barely good, although he's not as good as the Queen Mother, but it's so-so, and it's okay. But he is not our famous citizen after all. In his heart, he has always thought about the previous dynasty. My brother is in his hands, and if he is not careful, he may suffer from it. If he is beaten into the cold palace, my brother will go back to the Qingliang palace with me, and then we can be together day and night. Xia Dongqing said seriously, and before the words fell, he heard Xia Dongming sneer, glanced at him and said, Brother Qing, you are a little ghost. What kind of person is your mother Wei Chongzai? Don't you know? I'll tell you the truth. Don't listen to the intrigues she taught you. You are the prince, and you will assist me in continuing to be famous and prosperous in the future. And expand the territory. Even if you want to use strategy, you have to use upright strategy. Follow her to learn those petty tricks of competing for favor and love. And you will be ruined. Why did your father give you to your mother? It's just that I can't get used to the means that concubine Wei is always there, understand? Xia Dongqing was a child after all. And when he heard his brother say this, he fell silent. Xia Dongming glanced at him, and suddenly said, What? Am I wrong? You patted your chest and said, Concubine Wei really likes me and is willing to raise me? Then, let me be the emperor and let you be the prince? How does she teach you on a daily basis? Do you dare to say that she is a tolerant, generous, and intelligent woman? But she's my mother. Xia Dongqing finally couldn't help it, raised his head and glared at his brother, but saw Xia Dongming's face suddenly darkened, and muttered, Yes, she is your mother, but she is not my mother. I haven't seen my mother since I was born. It was my queen mother who worked hard to raise me to such an age, and then she left. She also handed me over to a male concubine, fortunately, although that man is also hateful, but he is not a selfish and insidious person. I follow him. I can learn things. I usually have nothing to do to fight. I feel that my life is quite comfortable. He is not like those old pedants. He must teach me what the Holy Son of Heaven hangs his clothes and governs. Fart. If they are all draped down, where did the rivers and mountains of the daimyo dynasty come from? It wasn't the emperor's grandfather and father who fought down with the soldiers of the 3 armies. Xia Dongqing finally heard Xia Dongming say what was in his heart. He followed Wei Chongzai. And he had been exposed to these tricks in the harem since he was a child, so he also had some scheming at a young age, but he was still a 4-year-old child. And he couldn't help but be curious at this time, looked at Xia Dongming and said, Brother, concubine Wen is really that good? Who said he was good? It's just that he's tall inside the squirt. And he looks good. Xia Dongming knew that he had missed his mouth, so he stood up again. Don't say it, I'll go to find out my father's tone.